Hello and welcome to the New England Job Show, a show produced by job seekers for job seekers. On today's show, we highlight the Women's Leadership Summit held recently at the Southern New Hampshire University in Manchester. One of the keynote speakers was noted feminist activist and writer Gloria Steinem. We were fortunate to spend a few minutes with her, and here is that interview. Gloria, you have over the years seen women progress in the workforce. But the question is, will the glass ceiling ever really disappear?
Eventually the glass ceiling will disappear, but women in a way are like a version of an immigrant group. And in the same way that the Irish and the Italians and the African Americans and the Hispanic groups often had to start their own businesses, right, because getting hired in someone else's business, right, was less likely. Women, right, I think, we're seeing now that has to happen too. Right. So it's not just about getting hired into the major corporations. It never has been for out-groups. Right. We've been more likely to have to start our own businesses, as well as being inside those. Right.
And of course, women who have started their own business have proved to be very successful, and that's perhaps an inherent gene or an inherent part of their makeup. You have seen quite a few recessions, possibly none like the one we're going through right now. But we're seeing that more men are now assuming the role of homemaker while women go out to work. Did you ever envisage seeing this shift in male-female dynamics happen way back when?
We've been hoping. Okay. No, because the whole idea is, I mean, yes, we've demonstrated to the country that women can do what men can do. But we haven't demonstrated that men can do what women can do. And therefore, the single biggest problem for the largest number of women is having two jobs, one inside the home and one outside the home. It's terribly, terribly important that men become equal inside the home, not just for women, but for children. I mean, unless children see men being loving and nurturing, they won't know that it's possible. Right. And they will grow up and just replicate the gender roles. Right. So anyway, do you think some good will come out of this battle of the sexes? The very fact that all of this is changing because of economic turmoil and unemployment. Well, it's not a battle of the sexes. I mean, that was never our term. We're trying to end the battle. Yes. But some good does come out of it, definitely, because you always see poor economic times are often better for women's equality than good economic times, because more men can afford a dependent wife, or several dependent wives.
Where you're from.
Right. No, I don't mean simultaneously, but serially, in good economic times. So just as we saw, say, in the Depression, or obviously in World War II, because in that case men were going off to war, we saw an advance in women's equality. So it's not true that the rising tide raises all boats. It swamps some, and they're frequently women's boats. So perhaps this time, because we have the consciousness at the same time that bad economic times are upon us, maybe we will be able to use this to equalize the roles in a positive way.
Now, your generation did much to, quote-unquote, liberate women. But do you think today's women take these liberties and freedoms for granted?
I hope so.
For all your hard work.
I hope so, because otherwise they won't move forward. I mean, Susan B. Anthony said, our job is not to make young women grateful, it's to make them ungrateful. I want them to get angry at the huge remaining inequities, the violence against women that is enormous, the sex trafficking and labor trafficking in this world that is huge. I want them to stop saying, how can I combine work and family, unless men are saying it equally. So I don't want them to be grateful, I want them to be angry.
But I just think that there's a whole younger generation who take it all for granted. They don't know what people like you went through to make sure that they have the freedom to do whatever they want and have,
it's good to know history because it does help you to understand that things don't happen automatically. You have to fight for them. But so I want, yes, of course I want young women to know their history. But gratitude never radicalized anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I did not walk around saying, oh, thank you for the vote.
Right.
I got mad because I was
Right.
being treated unequally.
Right.
And young women will get mad because they're being treated unequally.
Yeah. And do you think we will ever really see total equality between the sexes?
Yes.
And I think I heard you give a prediction on that.
We've seen it in the past. You know, it actually, as far as we can tell from original cultures, the Southern Africa, the Khoi and the San, from whom we all came, South India, the Dalits, the societies across the Himalayas, some of them, and Native American cultures here. There was much more equality between males and females. It was about balance. It was about balance with nature. The Iroquois Confederacy here actually was the inspiration for the suffrage movement, because it was so egalitarian, and female elders chose the chief and decided when to go to war and when to make peace and so on. So, we count history from as if it began with patriarchy, racism, monotheism, big problem if only men are God, then, big problem.
Yes.
Nationalism, which is quite recent, actually.
Yeah.
95% of human history was a different way. So can we achieve this now in the future? Of course we can.
Now, you're currently working on a book called Road to the Heart, America as if Everyone Mattered. It's about your 30 years on the road as a feminist organizer. Who is everyone, and do they really matter?
Everyone is everyone. I mean, it's understanding that each of us is a unique, miraculous combination of heredity and environment that could never have happened before in exactly this way and could never happen again. That there's a person already inside every baby, as everybody who's ever met a baby knows.
Right.
And the idea that the amount of melanin in our skin is going to dictate our lives, or that our genitals dictate our brains. I mean, please, this is ridiculous. The individual differences are infinitely more than the group differences. So it's literally about understanding that that you are not more important than anyone else, but not less important either.
Right. Yeah, that's the lesson. Now, like the women's movement, of which you are a key figure, the New England Job Show, of which you're a guest right now, is a grassroots effort. What is your advice to us? How can we make an impact and mature into an organization that really can affect people's lives?
I don't know what your activities have been, but I think helping people to unify around what they need. I don't know what that is. Paid sick leave, perhaps, because
just getting jobs for now.
For
now, yeah.
Yeah, getting jobs, creating jobs, and making the jobs more equal, and really looking at executive pay. It's way too much. One of the good things about this economic crisis is we're beginning to realize
we're really looking at that.
I was just reading that the top CEO 30 years ago made 80% more than the number 3 in the ladder.
Hierarchy, yeah.
And now it's like 250% more. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It is, absolutely.
So when we're thinking about the problem, we need to think about not just looking horizontally at whether we're getting an equal pay, but looking at vertically to see whether that pay is justified up there.
Right. A quick trip down memory lane. In a 1968 TV interview with CBS's Moses Znaimer, I hope that's the way you pronounce his name, but Moses asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you replied after quite a pause. You said, free and old and a little mean. Are you there yet?
I'm working on it, yes. I'm still a little too nice, let's face it.
Okay.
But I'm 75, which is remarkable to me. I don't know how this happened.
Fabulous.
I certainly do feel more free, certainly than when I was 30 or 40, absolutely. I wouldn't dream of retiring. I mean, from life.
From what?
Of course, I don't have a job, which of course makes it sort of freelancing.
Right.
But No, I do feel more free. And one of the things that makes you more free, actually, is that your hormones change.
Yep.
You're not enslaved by your hormones anymore.
Right.
So this little part of your brain that was otherwise reliably dedicated to sex and so on is still there, sort of, but it's also free for other things.
Mm-hmm. But why would you want to be mean? Don't nice girls?
I mean was maybe a poor choice, but I think I was understanding how much I had been trained to be feminine, that is, to giggle and laugh and say how clever
to
it is,
fit the
what
stereotype.
time it is, and to look for approval and so on. So I was striving to get out of that.
Right. It was wonderful spending these few minutes with you. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. And what can we say? Many, many more years of success in whatever you do, because whatever it is, it's great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you. And it's so much more global now.
Isn't it?
So, yes, absolutely.
That's the best part of it all.